Hi, it's Calder here once again from Singing Matters, and I wanted to talk to you today again about mixed voice, the problems you're having with mixed voice, why it's so elusive, why it's so annoying, why you're not quite getting it yet, and just continue that discussion that it seems to be the bane of our existence as singers, trying to understand this part of our voice and this technique. So, what are the main problems that people are having? And I've said similar things before. I might be repeating myself a little bit in this video, but there's a reason for these repetitions. The problems people have, generally, you're singing too loud, you're putting too much power into it, you're not adjusting and allowing the voice to go where it wants to go, and you're not letting go and lightening up to allow it to be stretched out the way it needs to be stretched, those chords. And you're putting too much tension into things. It takes a long time to work this stuff out for people. I've been talking about mixed voice and talking about that kind of bridge of your voice and the passaggio with students. And it's the thing that I had to work out. It took so long to get a grip on it or let go of the grip that I had on my voice in that part of my range. I did a little short this week talking about ma, 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 ma. Kind of finding that vowel shape in your head in a really light falsetto. A lot of people, you have to explain often to students and singers that the exercises we're doing aren't necessarily an end result. They're not a finished sound. They're often a way of getting you to something, or a way of getting rid of something that you're currently doing and getting to something that you don't usually do in the setup, muscular setup of your voice. So when I go, mama, everyone's like, well, I don't want to sound like that. No, I don't want to sound like that necessarily either. But we're trying to understand the voice. So it takes a little bit of discovery and experimentation. And the thing is about mixed voice, high-end, powerful singing, is that most of it is in the head. Most of it's your head voice. I did another video saying use your head voice more. I'm saying the same thing. Most of that sound is mama, ma, ma, ma. But I'm adding a little bit of power back into it, reinforcement with the chest voice musculature, just putting a bit of my body back into it, a bit of effort and oomph back into it, but only the tiniest little bit. If I overdid it, which I often do, and I've had to really spend years training myself out of, you will strain, it'll feel tense, it'll hurt, it'll grip, it would not be comfortable, and you'll have no freedom and flexibility in your voice. It'll feel really like you're hitting a ceiling instead of floating like we want it to. Ma, ma, ma. So we find that head voice sound, and I'm just picking a vowel and using the mum, the M sound. It's just what came out of me. Ma, 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 ma. Separating those two things, understanding the difference between that chesty sound that resonates in the mouth. We feel like when it resonates your chest bones and everything, but we sort of feel it, we're conscious of it here, like a ball of energy, a circle, open shape in the mouth. And if things are lifted and your soft palate's lifted, you can really sense that. Ma, ma, ma. Now, I'm not just going ma, 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 like I'm talking. Ma, ma, ma. I'm lifting inside the soft palate, like I'm slightly yawning or crying. We're just crying when we sing. We're crying on pitch. So, ma, 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 ma. There's a bit of effort going on inside to get that nice round shape, that tone. And then I'm just trying to put that up there. Ma, 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 ma. It's much easier to find that falsetto kind of sound, that heady sound, without any of the chest voice, without trying to find the power, without trying to put anything into it that's what you think you should sound like, any grit, any aggression, or, you know, just go for a light, heady sound. Ma, 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 ma. But the power is only a slight bit of reinforcement. I heard someone else say this, that some other coach had said reinforcement. And it's like, yeah, it is. This mix, this idea of mix, we are mixing the muscle groups. We are mixing the chest voice muscles with the head voice muscles that pull back. The chest voice are in this V shape at the front of your throat, front of your Adam's apple, inside the larynx. Yeah. When you're going high, you're using these muscles more. If we let go completely, we get a really falsetto kind of sound. Hey! If we let these at the front grip just a bit, we get a strong, powerful sound. But most of it is still head voice. So when we think of mix, by the time you get up to your bridge, say for guys, you get up to that kind of E, FF sharp kind of range, you know, most people, you want to be thinking a lot about head voice. Most of it wants to start being in the head, and it's kind of, it's not just a bit into the head, but it's kind of we've got to really start to let it shift up there. There's this weird thing where in between the two sort of spaces that we feel resonating, that's really up there. You can see that what I'm trying to place this sound up here. Really heady, falsetto. It's all in there. And when you're sort of in between that range, it's what is the reason they call it the passaggio in Italian, the passaggio, the original sort of classical kind of terminology for the voice, passaggio, the bridge, the passageway. That's the passageway in between. It kind of feels like there's like a little nook that it goes into, and then it goes into your head. And we want to be aware of these places where there's this different resonance happening. But we're still, even at the top of our chest voice, really, you want to be aware of it going up here. You want to be thinking that it lives up here. You want to be really lifting your soft palate, which is the soft bit of the roof of the mouth, the back of the mouth where it goes soft. It's the hard palate at the front. You can feel it's hard. You go further back, it softens up. We're placing it back there. You want to feel that sound going into there, lifting to help it. Lifting that sound up there, using your face, using the instrument. If you damp down on it, it gets all muffled. We need to give some shape to that sound to help it get into the head where it's trying to go. And I think it's worth thinking of it as more head voice than anything else. The mix is just reinforcing it. And I'm nicking that phrase from a student who got it from another coach they were watching. And I watch loads of other coaches, always have done. It's how I learned a lot of my stuff. And hopefully this makes sense to you. Maybe it makes other things that other coaches have said click more because you're taking it in slightly different language and slightly different visualizations, but we're all talking about the same kind of stuff. Think of it more as head voice than anything else. As soon as you get up to that kind of range where you start to feel like it's going to get tense and it's going to hit the wall and hit the ceiling, you can't get any higher, you know where that is in your voice, and the voice will always try and compensate. It will grip. It will tense up and because it knows that you're about to strain. So it starts to grab out of fear and, you know, protection. But as soon as you notice that feeling, you've got to recognize that what you usually feel in that range in your voice is actually unhealthy or a sign of unhealthy habits. And we can lighten that up. And if the more you go into head voice, the better. To let that happen. Woo! I often get people to do a falsetto siren like that to see how low they can take their falsetto. So falsetto is often associated with singing high, but that's not necessarily all that it is. It's just the way the voice is set up that gives you falsetto, but we tend to use it in a high range. It makes sense. It's really weak when it comes low. Ooh. Instead of wanting to connect all that, get that back into it. Ooh. And try and go as low as you can without really reconnecting your chest. And this will help you start to blend things differently and remove some of that area in the middle of your voice there, which feels really tight, really strainy and really tense. I've kind of jumped on and quickly just thrown a load of stuff out, but maybe I could do a little bit of an exercise as well. So I feel like I'm moving quickly today because I'm trying to fit things in between lessons and other stuff, and I'm really kicking myself for not keeping up with the videos for a little period through the summer and a couple of months either side where I've got a bit slow and not getting as many views. So thank you to anyone that's watching. You can, of course, subscribe to me here on the channel. That'd be much appreciated. I have recently started a Patreon as well, which a couple of people have subscribed to, where you can get some one-to-one feedback by sending me videos and audio clips of what you're doing, and I can help you notice the stuff that's happening, assess what's going on with your voice, maybe give you some exercises and some ways to improve how you're approaching things at this current time. And I think that's going to be really useful for people as just a kind of ongoing thing instead of having lessons or in between lessons as well. So I don't know how well you can hear this down here. So what can we do? A few weeks back, I did a sound, which is designed to not let it be too breathy and to teach the voice how to not push air and squeeze air through the chords. So that, let that go light. Let it go soft and light for now, because that's better than strain, right? We're trying to remove strain and tension. That's what most of the students I deal with are up against. Same as it was for me, and they tends to be the problem that a lot of my students have, because I think the way I talk about stuff, it speaks to them. So what we're doing, just let it be small and light. Take a breath. Just ease up and lighten up. Okay, up to that G there. I'm trying to let it go small. I'm trying to let it go light, but I'm trying not to be pushing too much air through it at the same time. I had a student this week who came for a one-to-one in the house. He'd done a couple of lessons online, but he made a trip to come and see me. And the noises that were coming out of him, bless him, was so similar to what I experienced years ago. I hear myself in people when I'm teaching, and it's like, I remember that. I remember that feeling. I remember trying that. I remember trying the other. I remember trying those things you did there. And every time they do an exercise, they do something different. And it's like, yeah, I remember that. I remember what that feels like. I can see what that feels like. I can picture it. I can remember it. And he couldn't get a falsetto sound out of himself. He could not do the the way he said it was like you're watching a TV show and they all, they mention the prize and the crowd go, ooh, like that. Like, he couldn't make that sound. It was like, it was really, he had to start from low, and he was trying to throw his voice up there, and it was really tense. And I remember that. I remember not being able to make those sorts of noises. Ooh. And if you want to get into your high range, you got to do everything you can to try ways of finding that part of your voice, because a lot of what we're using when we sing high is that part of our voice. We've just got to learn how to then reinforce it in a healthier way to give the power back. Take the power back. So he got there in the end, and we did a load of things that sort of took him to this place where suddenly it was coming out in a really relaxed, balanced, but powerful way as well. And we moved on to things like ba 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 ba. You see how easy and effortless that is? I remember doing exercises like that, and it was just, you could see it all over the face. You could see it in the neck. You could see things happening. You could see that squeezing, tightening up happening here with the swallowing muscles getting involved. And it's really crucial that you keep noticing what happens in the throat, keep noticing what happens in your neck, under the jaw, all of this stuff here. Try and watch yourself and watch yourself back and notice the movement. And if you don't notice the movement before you sing, try and notice the relaxation that happens afterwards. So you might not notice it first, but when you stop singing, if there's this release here, it's like, right, that means I must have been tensing up whilst I was singing, because I can feel that release. And sometimes there's so much intensity that goes into singing some notes that we don't notice what happens while we sing. We're not aware of it. We can't see it. We can't feel it. We're not able to kind of be conscious of that at the same time as actually singing. But it's your job as a singer who's trying to improve to work some of that stuff out and be able to notice the sensations that you are feeling. And one of the ways to do that is to watch yourself back. Film it, watch yourself in a mirror, record it, watch yourself whilst you're doing it. But if you can't pay attention, just press record on your phone and have a look afterwards at all the action and movements that your body makes. We need mixed voice to feel easy. We need head voice to feel easy. If it doesn't at the moment, there is a lot that's probably wrong that you're making excuses about, or kind of convincing yourself it's this or it's that or it's the other or whatever. We tie ourselves in knots and create all sorts of ways of making it seem like it's right when it's not. Or that's what I did anyway. I had to really become aware and conscious, and I had to really be told and tell myself that that's not what it should feel like. And it took so long. But I've watched some students really make progress. I often say this on my videos. It makes me so happy to see people make progress. I've got a guy I've just had now for a lesson, and he's really starting to get to a point where he's doing takes of covers of songs that he wants to sing, and they're starting to sound more like he's actually singing them. Whereas a couple of months ago, there was this big gaping hole in between the chest voice and the head voice. There's this big, awkward, graty, uncomfortable sound that was coming out in that mid-range. And he's finally starting to make that blend happen, and he's fixed some of his accuracy pitching as well. And we're really making progress. It's great. Maybe I'll share a video of some of these people soon. So here's a little thing you can do. It's like an arpeggio. Ba ba oh ba 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 ba. 4 times on the top note. Ba ba ba. Just B-U-H. Ba 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 ba. The U is a nice neutral vowel. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. You'll be feeling like you're going up towards that ceiling here on that D sharp. Ba 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 ba. Hear how small that sound is. I'm not shouting it. Ba 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 ba. Ba, yeah. But I'm placing it in this strip of my face. None of it is down here. None of it is in the mouth or below. Ba, you can hear the nasality to it. Ba, 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 ba. But I'm also keeping the larynx nice and low so we don't get strangled at the same time. You get that really nice balance of a big shape, but it's still letting the voice go thin and narrow. Wait. Ba, 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 ba. Really difference on that low note. I'll let that relax a lot there onto that low note. Ba, 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 ba. And as you hear singers say all the time, if the breathing isn't right, none of this will function how you want it to. I'm taking a lot for granted in terms of my breath control here. Others might struggle to do anything smooth with those sorts of notes. Because the breathing is being pushed and squeezed and they just don't know how to control it. So always go back to some breathing exercises to understand how to set your voice up where you're not letting any air out. And you can hold it without squeezing it at the same time, where you're just letting the cords hold the breath, but you're not squeezing it to do that. And you're not letting it collapse to do that either. Watch one of my videos. Maybe I'll get really good at YouTube and stick it on the screen, so you can watch some stuff about breathing. Or feel free to join me on Patreon, where I'm going to release a whole course on breath control. Different ways to find what you're looking for with your breathing. Back to this. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Let that go a little bit softer there because we really are transitioning even further into head on that top note there, which is a B flat we've gone up to there. That'll do for me today. Just a few little things to think about and be aware of about your head voice and that mix that you're trying to find. It's boring and predictable for coaches to say, you've got to do it soft first. You've got to do it quiet first. You have got to do it quiet first. You've got to do it quiet forever. You don't need to be putting extra volume into it. The voice cannot handle that amount of volume and power and breath force around that range. It's too much. It can't handle it. The cords are being stretched so thin. You can't force it. It means that other muscles are getting involved. We've got to work out how to let all those muscles let go. Keep reminding yourself to look at what's happening in the throat, look at what's happening and try and just, yawn it a little bit. The start of a yawn, open that shape up, lift the soft palate, try and make a shape so that things aren't gripping. Okay, you can sing with your tongue out to try and stop the tongue getting involved, all manner of things. Dopey sounds, try and lower the larynx. There are all manner of things that you'll have seen other people talk about. It's all a jigsaw puzzle to put together, but light, small, heady. Try that first. Try and go, ma, ma, ma. Just try and find a head voice. And if you can't find that sort of falsetto sound, that light sound, that heady sound up there, then there's definitely a lot of strain going on. And I encourage you to do anything you can to try and practice releasing that tension. Be aware of it. Watch what happens inside your throat as you sing. Okay, that was a quick fire, random off the top of my head discussion about mixed voice again. Join me on some other videos. Join me for some lessons. I'm ridiculously cheap compared to other coaches online. I won't mention one of them who's a lot of controversy online about a certain vocal coach at the moment. His prices are absolutely insane. I just charge a local rate. It's very, very reasonable. And I hope to see you soon for some lessons. Always good luck with your voice and try and take some of these things on board if you feel like you should be listening to it and it makes sense to you. Really, really try and hone in on some of the stuff I've said today. I'll see you on the next video. All the best.